Coming up next on the Appraisal Buzzcast, we're talking about the future of real estate appraisal. Yes, it has one. Kimberly Angellone joins us to dig into ACI's vision for a world reshaped by UAD 3.6, the data beast that's about to upend everything you thought you knew about filling out a form. This isn't a tune-up, it's a total engine swap. And Kimberly is at the garage door with the wrench. If you're still clinging to your clipboard like it's a life raft, you'll want to hear what's coming.
Solidify is one of the nation's most trusted valuation and title partners. With their proprietary technology and extensive network, Solidify delivers industry-leading quality, transparency, efficiency, and scale to the largest mortgage lenders in the U.S. Their marketplace of independent, qualified field professionals makes the homeownership experience extraordinary every time. Visit solidify.com for more information and stay connected with their latest news on LinkedIn. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast with your host, Hal Humphreys.
Welcome back, everyone, to today's Appraisal Buzzcast. Let me bring back in Hal Humphreys. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Jim, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Well, we say everybody knows about this new change that's coming, but sometimes some of our comments let us know that not everybody knows. But there's a big change coming to the industry, and there's a lot of appraisers that are unsure how to get ready for it. Well, we've got Kim Angellone here with us today to answer some of these questions. Hey, Kim.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
Kim, I cannot thank you enough for being here with us today. We're glad to have you on. Why don't you tell our listeners how you found yourself in this crazy space of real estate appraisal?
Sure thing. This crazy space. All right. So, well, my journey started, I don't know, maybe almost 20 years ago. I was a broker for Northwood Realty in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And that was right before the market crash. Not the best decision I've ever made there. And so I transitioned into real estate compliance and valuation. I grew up in the AMC space. You know, I worked for AMCs and lenders, and I was always in some technological capacity. And so I was developing operating systems, quality review platforms, risk management solutions, even mortgage compliance tools. I come from a strong technical family, but I never really considered myself particularly tech skilled, pretty much whatsoever. My skills really lie more so in just like workflow optimization, conflict resolution, fixing things that are broken, business architecture, putting the right people in the right seats. So a fun story, I was leading a project in a past life for a company that will remain unnamed. And in that project, I was tasked with upgrading BPO forms. And so this company had been using ACI for so long for other appraisal solutions. And so I engaged them for the BPO form task. And I was working with some of the folks here at ACI, and quite honestly, Hal, it was such a fantastic experience. The partnership working with them, it was wonderful. You know, they treated me with transparency, respect, honesty, and it was a culture that I really wanted to be a part of. And so when the opportunity came up, I was like, yes, please sign me up. I want to join your team. And so now as the program director at ACI, I focus on bridging human expertise with technology to empower appraisers. I have an amazing team. I have a team of product managers and analysts. We have a goat and we have a unicorn. And together we're a super team. And it really just, it makes coming to work every day fun and fulfilling. And so right now, my focus is on Workbench, which is ACI's UAD 3.6 form solution. We're also updating our Sky platforms for UAD 3.6. And our goal is to provide appraisers with a tool that they can take into the future. One thing that I have learned through this crazy journey is that if you're building something to meet today's needs, then you're already behind. Development takes time. And so you have to anticipate where the industry is heading and then build for that long term.
Yeah, that is an absolutely key point. I do want to go back for a second to the notion of you did some work with ACI you loved the culture, you liked the team, you joined the team, and now you're happy to go to work. I think a
Yeah.
lot of times we as human beings forget how important it is to be a part of a team that is caring and supportive and there with you.
Yeah, absolutely. For the first time, and I hope no previous employers are listening to this, but for the first time, like I can honestly say that I love my job.
I love it.
I do. I love my
That's
job.
great.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it shows when you come to conferences like Valuation Expo or the ACTS conference that we host with the NAA in the springtime. That shows through. You come across as happy to be there and a person that
Yeah.
people want to walk up and talk to and ask questions. So I'm tickled that you're where you are and that you're doing the job you're doing. There has been a lot of chatter about this new UAD.
Yeah.
Limited production starts September 8th. So everyone needs to be ready, and I don't think everybody is ready. Can you give us some insight into what this means for appraisers?
Yeah. Limited production is 72 days from this moment, Hal, which will be even less by the time this gets out. So yeah. Oh my gosh, it's coming so fast. And so UAD 36, it introduces a dynamic, data-driven reporting framework that adapts to all property types. It's designed to improve consistency, accuracy, and efficiency in the appraisal process, right? I think appraisers have probably heard that line multiple times. And so what does that mean? It's a significant evolution. It really is. UAD 26, we all know, we're familiar with it. It relies on static pre-printed forms like the 1004, 2055. It's very limited in flexibility, and it focuses more on the form itself than the actual property. And it's still going to be used, though. I think that's important for appraisers to realize. 2826, those forms aren't going anywhere, right? That's still going to be used for default, non-GSE assignments. This focus is really exclusively today. Can't speak for the future, they may adapt, but today it's for GSE backed assignments, so those origination appraisals. UAD 36, it features flexible, dynamic, uniform residential appraisal report, that URAR, that adapts to the data that's entered. And so it focuses more on the actual property itself, the data that makes up the property, the specific amenities that make up that property. That form evolves based off of what that information looks like. And so it replaces those older GSE forms with a single comprehensive dynamic report. And again, it really emphasizes the necessary data elements over those pre-printed forms. And it's designed to streamline the process, better reflecting all of those diverse property types and situations. And again, it's only going to be used for GSE-backed assignments moving forward. I get a lot of questions about the timeline. I think appraisers don't understand, and so many people, I think, in this industry don't understand what the difference is between limited production and broad production and mandate. So I wanted to touch on that briefly, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
All right, cool. So again, 72 days out. We're currently in this industry prep phase, is what they're calling it. And that's running from now all the way up until September 7th. And this is where the industry is actively preparing for the UAD changes. At ACI, we're finalizing Workbench, which is our new cloud-based software for UAD 36. We are also live in our beta program. This started on April 5th, and that's open to all ACI customers. And then we plan on kicking off very comprehensive appraiser training that's going to start on August 1st. But right now, industry prep, everybody's scrambling. We're all racing towards that date of September 8th, 25, which is the start of limited production. And so during this phase, this is where only select lenders that have submitted the UAD questionnaire and received GSE approval are able to start ordering appraisals using the UAD 36 while continuing to order those UAD 26, right? So it's almost like our pilot program. Workbench is going to be available for all ACI customers starting on September 1st. So if you're an ACI user, no fear. But ACI users will be using the Workbench UAD 36, Workbench for UAD 36 appraisals while continuing to use the desktop software for the UAD 26 appraisals.
Okay.
Now, I will say, I don't think that September 8th is going to come about and there's going to be this massive number of UAD 36 appraisals that are happening. I do think it's going to be more of just like a, place one, kind of see how it goes. But that's really why it's important for appraisers to recognize that every single report that is placed, it's going to be scrutinized. People are going to be watching it very closely, and it's going to be a learning opportunity for appraisers, AMCs, lenders, software providers, even GSEs, right? And so it's important to be prepared and to be ready. Broad production is starting on January 26th. And so that limited production phase, that's only for lenders that are pre-approved, right? They have that approval from the GSEs. Broad production means that any lender can place a UAD 3.6 without some type of pre-approval. But appraisers are still going to see those 3.6s and 2.6s coming through. And so that's going to run all the way up until November 2nd, which is the beginning of mandate. And mandate, from that point on, all lenders must place a UAD 3.6 for any GSE-backed transaction. Now, there's still going to be UAD 2.6 that's taking place in the background for revisions. The GSEs are keeping that pipeline open all the way through May 3rd, which is what they're referring to as retirement. So if an appraiser started at a UAD 2.6, they don't have to worry about transitioning that over into a 3.6. That UAD 2.6 will still be accepted for any revisions that come in all the way up until May 3rd of 2027.
That is quite possibly the most concise and useful explanation of the timeline I have heard. Thank you for that. You know, I taught the UAD 3.6 class that Fannie Mae put together and is delivered to the education providers. I taught that class yesterday, and there was a good amount of weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
There was some fear, there was some anger, you know, out from some of the students in that class. But you know, here's the thing that hits my ear, and this is the way I think about it. You mentioned, you know, we were using the 2.6 forms, and everything was about making things fit into the form. Like we're shoehorning data into things that it doesn't necessarily want to fit into.
Right.
And the good thing about UAD 3.6 is we're not shoehorning things into the wrong spot. There's a spot for that now. Specifically, I'm thinking of, you know, during COVID, when there were the COVID exceptions, they didn't know where to put that. So they said, put it in the map reference field, because that map reference field was a dead field that nobody knew what to do with it anyway. So I'm glad about the way the new report builds upon what you've done in the beginning and adapts as necessary, and allows us to illustrate. It tells a better story about the property. Let me ask you this. This is going to completely change how appraiser software will work. It's a massive undertaking. What were some of the roadblocks that you guys have seen and dealt with? And what are some of the most exciting changes that came out of this for you guys?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So roadblocks, I think, I mean, we built I've heard this. Workbench was built from scratch. We started completely brand new. And so, you know, we chose that path instead of updating our existing software because it allowed us to really fully align with UAD 3.6, which is the future, right? And so now we built a solution that meets those standards, but then it's also designed to incorporate modern technology moving forward. And we can touch on technology here in a sec because I get so excited every time we talk about it. But the industry is just moving so fast. And so we wanted to make sure that Workbench was able to handle that. But I think that probably one of the biggest roadblocks that we had was really just balancing innovation with maintaining the familiarity that appraisers value in the traditional forms. That's been one of the biggest challenges in developing Workbench. And it's a delicate balance, right? So pushing forward with new technology while still respecting the tools and the processes that appraisers have relied on for years. And so I'll share a story with you that really brought this into focus with me. So a former boss recently reminded me of George Opelka, ACI's former leader. Everybody knows George, right? George's name became synonymous with ACI because of the relationships that he built across the industry. And when he brought up George, I was like, this isn't George's ACI anymore. Like, come on, like, we're brand new, right? We're future focused. We're retiring old software. We're embracing innovation. But it made me realize that we are Georgia's ACI. For over 40 years, ACI has been a cornerstone of the appraisal software industry. And what we're doing now is we're elevating that appraisal experience while still staying true to our roots. And I think that's exactly what George stood for. And it's that realization that really gave me a renewed sense of purpose. So another story I'll share with you, Hal, and it sticks with me, is a mentor mentioned to me once whenever I first started this project. And he said, be careful not to move the appraiser's cheese. And it's such an odd phrase, but it comes from the book, Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. You're nodding, you know exactly what we're talking about.
My business partner, Brian Reynolds, when we're trying to figure out where he is in the presentation, I'll check in with Ben Maxwell and I'll say, where's Brian? How's he getting? He's like, oh, he just moved his cheese.
He's going rogue, basically, is what that means.
Yeah.
So cheese really is a metaphor for, whatever fulfills a person's needs and desires. And for appraisers, that cheese is how they complete their work. And so the book's core message is that change is constant, and for those who resist will struggle, while those who adapt will thrive. And so in this case, don't move the cheese. It embodies that resistance to change that many appraisers feel. And so my mentor saying that to me, it's a reminder to be mindful that when we're developing new tools like Workbench, that we still hold on to those lessons that shaped how we approach Workbench, right? It's the platform that reflects that balance between George's ACI and the future of appraising. It's familiar yet revolutionary. It's efficient yet empowering. And we worked really hard to make sure that it's both user-friendly and future-ready so that appraisers can feel confident using it today and for years to come.
Yeah. That familiarity of the interface is, I would imagine from your perspective, when you mention roadblocks like that, to have the interface feel similar and familiar, I imagine you had to do some cartwheels to get to that spot.
Yeah, it's not easy. Not easy, especially since it's from scratch, right? Like if we would have taken our existing software and made some changes to it so that, it's more dynamic and it can be able to accommodate UAD 3.6, it wouldn't have been a roadblock for us because it's super familiar. Appraisers know how to do that. But we wouldn't have been able to say that it's a tool that can take appraisers into the future. It's going to be capped because technology is just moving so fast. Like AI, for example, right? We want Workbench to be able to handle AI. So that was the whole plan. That was our biggest roadblock. Our biggest challenge was just making sure that we hold on to the roots, but still also prepare for the future.
And that your last comment leads perfectly into, where do you see the future of real estate valuation software heading, and where do you see AI changing this industry?
This is my favorite topic to talk about, Hal. Thank you so much for asking, because I get so excited. And if I start talking too much, just like, I don't know, put up a whammy or a buzzer or something and just cut me off, because I get so pumped about it. So a fun fact, I'm finishing up my MBA at Penn State University, and my favorite class I think I've ever taken, it is Emerging Trends in Technology and Corporate Innovation. And it's taught by Dr. Wade Sheen, and he is fantastic. And he taught that it's so important to predict the future of technology and really identify the best time to jump into this AI revolution that we're in. And so the future of real estate valuation software, I think it's going to be more dynamic. It's going to be data-driven. And that's all going to be integrated into a new industry standard, right? Yeah. This technology isn't going anywhere. And the more that we resist it, or the more that we don't prepare for it, we're going to get left behind. And
I'm seeing a Borg ship in the background saying resistance is futile.
Exactly. And then you get zapped, yeah, like you have to get on board with it for sure. But I think that, some of the most exciting tools that are coming out, AI, of course, that's the word that everybody knows. I think that's really the hot topic right now. And I think a lot of people are starting to incorporate AI for automating repetitive tasks, but it's capable of so much more. I think that's just the basis. And I think that's going to be the new standard, is just automating tasks. But it's capable of data analysis. And so as we move into like big data, right? Big data baby, that's not going anywhere either. Appraisers are going to be tasked with analyzing all of that data.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, what was it, maybe 20 years ago, data was a file in a filing cabinet in someone's office. And now data is spread across the interwebs and everybody has access to it.
Yeah.
And appraisers are expected to be able to review that quickly and analyze it and come up with the best value possible for that property. And that's really hard to do,
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about needing to be efficient. And so I think that's a big component of where AI is going to be able to step in. But I mean, also like virtual reality, like that's coming up. That's not going anywhere either. And I think that that's going to be more prevalent in especially the appraisal industry. Imagine conducting, virtual walkthroughs of a property, or being able to see a 3D walkthrough of a property. Say that you went out and you inspected the property, but there's nuances and you need to go back and you have to check, right? I think I saw a crack there, but I wasn't sure. Let me go back and check. If you did a virtual walkthrough, you can just go back and check your walkthrough and you don't have to visit that property again. And then blockchain. So blockchain is something that I've had to Google so many times just to fully understand it myself. And so let me explain this one a little bit more. So blockchain is a secure, decentralized digital ledger that records transactions across multiple computers. And so really it's a secure way of securing data, right? And so for appraisers, I think that this offers a transparent way to manage property data and transactions. And it opens up opportunities for valuing fractional property ownership, which is becoming more of a growing trend in this industry. I think its transparency and its immutability reduce the risk of fraud. It makes it a safer way to store data. And I think that's going to start to come up in this industry as well. But yeah. AI, man, it's revolutionizing real estate valuations.
It is revolutionizing so many things. And there's a lot of fear out there about artificial intelligence and the machine taking over. I mean, look, here's the thing. Artificial intelligence is a tool. And I think we would be foolish not to learn how to use the tool in the most productive and useful way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kim, I've got to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back.
Intercorp, a division of Norman Spencer, has your back. Comprehensive insurance coverage from a team that's always there when you need them. The team at Norman Spencer is ready to roll up our sleeves and dig into your toughest insurance questions. We're committed to appraisers and AMCs. Intercorp's programs are tailored specifically for the appraisal industry. Put our experience to work for you. Please contact Susan Lomelli, Lomeli, at norman-spencer.com to discuss your insurance needs.
Welcome back to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys. I'm joined today by Kim Angellone from ACI. She has been talking with me and with you about ACI and the future of the real estate appraisal business. Kim, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us today. I always like chatting with you, but this is one of the most enjoyable chats that I've had with you, because I have to shut up and listen to what you have to say, which is really interesting and useful for us as appraisers. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. And that's my favorite part of your Hal, is whenever, you have to shut up and listen to me talk. It's always a pleasure.
We have this thing that Jim Morrison, our producer here at Appraisal Buzz, does on occasion, and he throws an anonymous appraiser question at me and the guest to try and make us look like idiots. So, Jim Morrison, do we have an anonymous appraiser question this week?
We do. And Hal, you've gotten a break the past couple episodes, so I don't want to hear it. So
They all hurt. Go ahead.
Well, if anybody does have an anonymous appraiser question for us, or wants some feedback from our experts, reach out to us at comments@appraisalbuzz.com or put them in the YouTube comments below. But this one says, I accepted an exterior order for an older home on 12 acres in a popular suburban area in my city. The highest and best use is to develop the site for a subdivision. Literally, the adjoining similar site was sold for $900K in 2017 and was developed into a neighborhood. I have multiple land sales that support the subject site value close to 1.2 mil, and the highest and best use is not as is. I asked my client to do this on a land form, and they said they couldn't accept that since it's an equity loan that needs to be a house. I don't think I can follow USPAP and complete this and just comparing it to other homes with land because it's not the highest and best use. Do I repeat to my client this has to be done on a land form?
Huh. Well, I mean, Kim, any thoughts on that?
Go ahead. You take this one.
So what I would say is if you've done the work, you've gone through the entire highest best use process, and your conclusion is that the as is use is not the current highest best use, then I think you are bound by USPAP and common sense to appraise the property to its highest best use. There may be interim value in the improvements, and it's okay to acknowledge that. But I don't think you can get away from calling the highest best use what the highest and best use is. Now, when we're talking about should I tell my client I have to put this on a land form? I mean, forms are not USPAP compliant. Appraisers are. I don't care if you put this on a residential form and mark it is not the highest and best use. I have a feeling your lender client is going to have heartburn about that as well. Were it me, and Kim, tell me your thoughts on this, I would say, hey, this is the highest best use of this property. I'm more comfortable either A, producing a narrative report so I can explain thoroughly what this thing is, or if you're not comfortable doing that, if it's out of your wheelhouse, may I refer you to another appraiser who can provide that kind of work. Now, they may just pass altogether, but Kim, does that sound like a reasonable way to handle that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would advise as well. I'm not an appraiser, of course, and so but I did grow up in the AMC QC space, and so we've seen this quite often. And for lenders, lenders work with AMCs because they really they want to be hands off, right? They just want to, here's my order, just go and handle it. And so I think that the key here really is it's communication. I think the appraiser has to communicate back with whoever ordered that assignment and say, this is what USPAP is requiring of me. This is not the highest and best use. I do agree. I think a narrative form is probably the best way to go here, or a land form. Definitely not UAD 3.6. This would graduate out of UAD 3.6, that's for sure. But yeah, I think communication is key, right? It's important that we produce some type of a credible appraisal, and it would have to adhere to USPAP requirements. And I think just sticking with that 2055 is certainly not going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I love the question because this appraiser has clearly thought through the issues of highest and best use. A lot of times we, on the residential appraisal side, if we're working in a subdivision where there's lots and houses that are all fairly similar, it almost feels like highest and best use is a fait accompli, like we know what it is. We've done this work 100,000 times. But when you get a one-off like this, you get to stop and actually do the work of an appraiser and analyze the highest and best use. And hats off to this appraiser for having done that level of work to get to the spot where they then get to tell their client, yeah, you're barking up the wrong tree. But that's the best answer I've got. Jim Morrison, does that do it for you?
That was some great information, and we really appreciate the insight on that. And hopefully the appraiser will be able to do that and take that advice.
Well, Jim, do we have anything else we need to cover today?
No, Kim, we really want to thank you, and we're looking forward to seeing you at Valuation Expo. Kim will be hosting a panel with Fannie and Freddie talking about the new UAD, so it's going to be a great one, and it can't miss for anybody coming to the show.
I'm super excited for the opportunity. Guys, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to meet with you and have these conversations. And just a quick plug, Workbench, we are live in beta. So if you want to join our beta program, it's workbench at aciweb.com, and come and see us at Val Expo.
Kim, thank you again. Jim Morrison, thank you. If we have nothing else, for Jim Morrison and Kim Angellone, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzzcast for this week.